Hello everybody and welcome back to another mini structures video. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make an entire shipwreck in just a 3x7 area. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is pop up the timestamps of everything we have in the video. So this is what we have for the small scale shipwreck. But as usual, before we get into building the mini shipwreck, we're going to go back to the real structure to talk about it a bit. So to show the ship a bit better, I just summoned in one using a structure block so you can get a better idea of what it looks like. So this is going to be the biggest that you're going to find of any ship. This is it fully built up with the mast and the back, front, and everything on it. And so you could also find these things in halves. You could find ones that only have the back half, you could find ones that only have the front half, and then you could also find them on their side and upside down. And just at the beginning in the intro we were looking at one that was upside down. It's right in the ocean over there, but this is what they will look like when they're fully built up. So the interesting thing about only half of the ship being there sometimes is that you get a different amount of chest. So on a full ship like this you'll have 3 chests. One right here, which is in kind of the captain main area. This one is the treasure chest. And then if you head down below deck, you have 2 chests down here. And one of these will be, I believe the back one is the map chest. So this will have a treasure map as well as paper and other things. And then this one is kind of the storage chest and it has more random items in it. Things like carrots and potatoes. So I think we could go over to a real shipwreck and look at what's inside each chest. So now we're back in the naturally generated shipwreck to go look at the chest in here. So first of all we have this one, which you could kind of think of as the captain's chest. So this is the treasure chest. And so this gives you an idea of what it could look like. It has different valuable items, usually a lot of mining type things like emeralds, iron, gold, and diamonds. And so that's the treasure chest, which is in the top half of the back of the boat. And now below deck at the front of the boat we have the supply chest. And this one is actually very empty. It's usually more full than this. But this could have things like leather armor, and this gives you a good idea of what it's like, usually with potatoes and carrots, and this one's honestly pretty pathetic. And now for the final chest. This one is called the map chest, and while all these are extremely empty, I'm actually really surprised by that. But this one you can see has some paper, an empty map, and this is one of the most valuable things in the shipwreck. This is the buried treasure map. And I'm shocked at how empty all those chests were, but now let's go through everything you could actually find in those. So now let's look through exactly what you could find in each chest. The first one we're starting at is at the front bottom of the boat, and this is called the supply chest. And here you could find suspicious stew, papers, you can find wheat, carrots, potatoes, coal, zombie flesh, gunpowder, bamboo, pumpkins, and TNT, which I don't think I've ever seen a TNT in a boat. That must be pretty rare. And the final thing you could find is enchanted leather gear. And now what's in called the treasure chest, and this is at the top back of the boat. You can find iron, iron nuggets, emeralds, lapis lazuli, gold nuggets, gold, bottle of enchantment, and then also diamonds. And now for the final chest, which is the map chest, which you find at the bottom back of the boat. You could find the buried treasure map, which is one of the most interesting things in the ship, and we'll look more into that. You could also find paper, feathers, books, clocks, compasses, and empty maps. You could find a boat made out of every wood variant except for acacia, and I can't say that with certainty, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And on the wiki it says that it could be made out of every wood type except for acacia and birch, but obviously we have a birch boat right here, so I don't know what that means. So I think it's every single wood type except for acacia, which is that orange looking wood. And the one final thing that I have for the boat is that it will pop up in any ocean biome, any variant of the ocean biome, and then also in any beach biome, and I'm pretty sure it has a lower chance. And so I guess that this one would be one that popped up in a beach biome, but if we actually look on the F3 screen, most of this is in sunflower plains, so it is able to reach into other terrains, but I'd say this one is mostly on the beach. I think that's probably it for the boat. There's not too much with it. It is an interesting one though. I think it adds a really nice story element to the game, that there was someone once here sailing around the ocean in these giant boats, and that part of it I love. But now I guess we can move on to the buried treasures. I think we covered everything here. So the way that a buried treasure map works is that these buried treasure spots will spawn in randomly in the world, similar to the way that ships and other things spawn in. And so now the two ways you could find those is either finding a map in the shipwreck in the map chest I was talking about, or also you could find maps in drowned ruins, and those maps link up with the closest naturally spawned in buried treasure. So now if we look at this one, you can see that we're just south of it based on our dot, so I'm going to face north and head in that direction, and after traveling that way for a decent amount of time, we should end up there. It looks like this might be a possible spot, this island. Well, there's definitely something up with my map. See, I'm moving around in different directions, but the dot is not moving. What should happen is that when I move east to west, it should move the dot along the bottom. So this is really strange. I don't know what's going on with that. Well, that was a pretty terrible example. I'm going to try to find another buried treasure map to try that again. I've never had that happen before, and I'm pretty sure it has something to do with my crazy coordinates. Yeah, it looks like I'm 284,000 blocks away from spawn, so I'm guessing that's what's causing the weirdness. So I just grabbed a new one, and this one is working much better. One other thing I want to point out is that any of those stripes you see on the map are unexplored waters, and any of the more plain looking things are unexplored land. So now that we found the X, I'm going to scoot over so my nose just peeks out of the front of the X, and right here is exactly where you want it to be, where my nose is just pointing out. You can see it, and all the white is hidden. Now I'm going to go straight down. Now let's take away the map. And here it is. This is 100% the chest. You can see that it has these stones sticking out like this. That's not naturally generated terrain at all. It's just doing that to make sure it hides the chest and not just to have it in plain sight. So all we have to do is break this block, and here it is. And now the most interesting thing about this one is the heart of the sea. But first, let's go through everything else you could find. And actually I want to say this before we get into the contents of the chest. So first of all, the contents is different between Java Edition and Bedrock, so I'll go through some of those differences. And also another thing about the chest is it will never be lower than the sand or gravel on top of it. So if you're looking for a chest where you think it is, you're at the X, so you never have to dig into the stone or sandstone. It will never be any lower than that. The lowest will be is at this level right here at the bottom of the sand. So keep that in mind when you're going through. The only thing you're going to need is a shovel to get to it. And yeah, that's the final thing I want to say. Now let's get into the contents of the chest. So once again, this is everything you could find in Java Edition. So that includes the heart of the sea, iron, gold, cooked cod, cooked salmon, a leather tunic, an iron sword, TNT, emeralds, prismarine crystals, and a diamond. And now let's go into a few different weird things you could find on Bedrock Edition. So some of the different things you could find on Bedrock Edition are chainmail armor, potions of water breathing, leads, name tags, potion of regeneration, book and quill, different music disc, and then also cake. I actually just learned about that. That's kind of unfair. They get way better stuff. So that's everything with the buried treasure. The very last thing I want to bring up is the heart of the sea. So what this pretty much does is nothing. By itself, the heart of a sea is pretty much useless. I don't think there's anything you could do with it. And you could throw it around. It kind of looks like a bouncy ball or something. I don't know. But what you're meant to do with it is get nautilus shells, which you would get from drowned. And what you do with these is you get 8 of them, if I could find them. Okay, here we go. Now I got the nautilus shells. So what you could do with these is you need a crafting table. Place that down. And so if you take a heart of the sea and then you place nautilus shells all around it using 8 nautilus shells, you get a conduit. And now the cool part about the conduit is it lets you breathe underwater. Oh man, and now there's a whole nother thing I need to explain. Because in order for a conduit to work, you need to have prismarine, which you could get from a sea temple. And so prismarine you want to place in a ring around it, and the smallest ring you can make is a 5x5 ring with a 3x3 hole in the center. So I'll make it just like that, then place the conduit in the very center of it, break the block, and now we have a conduit set up. And just so you know, you have to have the corners on the ring, otherwise it won't work. And now some other things is you could use any type of prismarine, including dark prismarine. See, if I swap that out, it still works just fine. We'll add in prismarine bricks. See, so it just works just the same. And one other thing, the very last thing, at least I hope, is that you could place multiple rings around it, up to 3 rings. So we have one going along the x-axis, one going along the y-axis, and now one going along the z-axis. If I said that right, I think you guys get the idea. So we have a total of 3 rings. place all these in. And once you get all 3 rings, this changes the conduit just a bit, where now it's a bit more powerful. You can see these different animations around it, because now if a hostile mob comes next to it, it will actually start causing that mob to take damage, and then it also maxes the range on the conduit. So that conduit lets you breathe underwater and see better. I already have night vision, so it's a bit hard to tell, but on survival these things are super useful for working underwater. Now is that everything? I think that's everything. We got the shipwreck, the buried treasure, the conduit. Yeah, that's gotta be everything. Let's get into building our tiny version now. So now I'm gonna start off by building this thing up layer by layer, just showing you a quick scan of what it all looks like. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna use spruce planks as the main plank block, and I'm gonna use birch for stairs and acacia for slabs. And that's just so that way you could tell the different blocks I'm using, and you could tell which ones are actually stairs and slabs. But obviously on the real boat you're building, use all spruce or all oak or whatever wood type you choose. And so that's pretty much how you build it, but what we're going to do now is go through block by block and build this thing up on survival to show that it's possible, and also to show anyone who likes to see it that way better. And also just ignore my skin through the rest of this video. We got some crazy stuff going on over the Apollo project, so hopefully that explains it. So now I'm in survival with all the materials we're going to be needing, and so that's all the different materials to build up the boat. We also have a diamond axe, which obviously you could use any axe or no axe at all. This just makes it easier in case I make any mistakes. The other blocks we have are honey blocks, which I'm just going to be using as place off of blocks, or I could place it down and then place a slab or something, where normally I wouldn't be able to. So that's all I'm using these for. You do not need honey blocks whatsoever. You could use any other thing or nothing at all. It's just what I decided to bring since they're new and kind of fun. And I also really apologize if those previous clips were pretty choppy. It seems to be a curse of the mini structured worlds, and I don't know what the problem is. Okay, so let's get started on this boat. The first thing I want to mention is that the yellow and orange area is exactly where the boat is going to be built up. The boat won't extend any further than that. It won't be over or on top of any of the green and blue. This is just the outline to show our build space, but we won't be building on it. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is place a block on the edge or outline of our build space, so that way we could place a stair off of it and get rid of this. So that stair should be pointing up and away from our build space. Should look just like this. Now what we're going to do is take slabs, and we're going to count 4 away from that. So 4 slabs, so this is flush up against the edge of our build space, and then over here we have 2 spaces left. Now what we're going to do is take 2 honey blocks, and we're going to place those on either side. You could use any block you want, even just the planks we have in our inventory, and then we're going to place 4 off of each of those, following the same pattern we have down, just 1 half block lower. And the final thing we're going to do for this layer is place in another filler block and place this slab off of. That's our whole first layer done. Now I'm just getting rid of these blocks. So here's what that should look like. Now we could get started on layer 2. So to start on layer 2, I'm going to do the whole outline of the outside of the ship. So I'm going to start off by placing this, and by the way, this is the back of the boat. This will be where the boat is facing away from, and this is where it will be facing towards. So the front of the boat, the back of the boat. But anyway, we place this plank block on top of the stair we have at the back of the boat. Now we're going to place another one off of it here, and to keep it symmetric, we're going to place it on this side too. Now take your stairs and face towards the back of the boat, and place down a stair like that. And now place another spruce plank in front of that stair, just like this. Just like you have a little chair pointing into a table, and we're going to have a chair on this side too. And our player is now facing towards the front of the boat when we place in this stair. And so we get this little table setup type thing, if you imagine it that way, where we have a stair facing to the table, this one too, and we did that on both sides. So now just continue on those blocks. I'm placing this off the back of the stair, just 2 more on both sides. And now on top of the boat, what I'm going to do is place in a slab as the flooring of the top of the boat. To do that, I'm placing it on the top half of the little table block we were just talking about, and I'm leaving this spot open, but continuing on the slabs all the way to on top of this spot. So that was 4 slabs in total, leaving an airspace at the back of the boat. And now that we have the slabs in place, I went to the front of the boat to place in a stair like this, to start on kind of our nose of the boat. And that is everything we have for the second layer. Let's get started on the third. And to get back up there, I'm using these as scaffolding blocks, which they're actually terrible as. Just watch this. If I try to place this down to get up here, it doesn't even work. So to start on the third layer, I'm going to take our 5 final planks, place one on top of the back of the boat, so this is directly on top of the stair we placed down at the very beginning, and now I'm going to take the other 4 planks, place one to the side, one to this side, one in front of the one we just placed down, same on this side, and that's all of our planks now finished. Now take your slabs and keep building off of those planks by placing 2 in front just like this, and that should cover up the stair you placed down in the second layer. Now let's continue on to the front of the boat. For the front of the boat, you can see we made it all the way to the build limit. The final thing we have to do is place in a stair like this, and that creates the top peak of kind of the nose of the boat. The final 2 slabs go on either side, both here. And now layers don't matter much, but to finish up the third layer, we're just going to place in a fence on top of this slab, right next to the opening we made. And now let's just finish up the rest of this thing, place some fences on top of the whole back of the boat, 5 in total, and now we're going to work on the sail. So go so you're equal with the height of the railing you just built up, and now go 1, 2, 3 higher than that, and on the second to top highest fence, place a fence off of either side, and that uses all of our materials and finishes off the boat. So that finishes off our tiny boat, and man, just look at how adorable this thing is, and I just love it. So now let's just go through a few variations you could add to this thing. So one change that you can make to the boat is you could build up the whole thing in a different wood type. So this is the same boat but now made out of oak planks. And one thing I don't like about this boat is it's very much all the same color. So one thing you could work on is adding in different accent pieces, like maybe the sail could be spruce fences, and you could add a different flooring color here, and you could play around with different stuff like that. And now another thing is that you could wreck the boat a bit to make it look more like an actual shipwreck instead of like a finished boat. There's a quick example of having the back of the boat. You could also try to build this thing on its side. I'd imagine that'd be pretty tricky, maybe upside down too, that might be possible. But yeah, just to give you some ideas of how to make it look more like a shipwreck. You could also just build this thing out on the water, just have it sailing around as a super cute little mini boat. I think that's it. We built up our mini shipwreck. It's looking adorable. We got this one right over here, which I love the way it's on this little island. I love how it's like this is the parent and you have the little baby over here. It's just pretty wonderful. So yeah, that is it. Let me know what you guys are going to do with a little tiny shipwreck in your worlds. I think it's a ton of fun. And thank you so much for watching. If you want to see what's going on with the crazy skin, you gotta check out the next episode of the Apollo Project. Things are getting wild. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something new about the shipwreck and got to build up your own tiny version. And if not, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you guys. See you next time.